Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Doctors of BC First 2006 Physician Business Services webinar, Navigating Career Transitions, a focus on retirement for physicians in collaboration with PHP. I'll get started with the intro and housekeeping while folks are transferring over from the waiting room and signing on. I'm Walter Lamb from Physician Business Services, and joining us tonight is Peter Gibson from PHP, the Physician Health Program, and Darla McIver, Business Advisor for my team, Physician Business Services. I'm speaking to you tonight from Richmond and would like to acknowledge the land on which I reside on as the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We're all from various locations around BC, so thank you all for being here tonight and the land which you're presented on. So this session is on Zoom webinar format, so cameras are off and everyone is muted on entry. Please use the chat for technical difficulties and send all your questions through the Q&A so we do not miss any. And thank you for all your questions with the registration for us to tailor the presentation to be more in line with your inquiries. We noticed a few financial questions, but we will not delve into details with them as each financial situation is case by case and finance is not the main focus of tonight's session. Please consult with your financial planner or accountant as we're not licensed financial experts. And what we share today will only be based on experience that should not be taken as financial advice. Darla and the other business advisors from my team are happy to book individual one-on-one sessions with you or your clinic to conduct a business assessment if you require it. We've also recorded financial webinars on retirement on our business corner, which are presented by certified financial planners. So let's pull up a poll while I finish off the intro, just to see what our participant poll is tonight. So three questions. Are you currently considering retirement? Yes and no. What is your anticipated timeline for retirement? Within 1 year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, more than 5 years, and unsure? And the third question, have you thought about what your retirement journey might look like? Yes, somewhat, and not yet. So while you're answering that, let's go over tonight's agenda. Peter will take point and discuss on career transitions and retirement impacts such as your emotional well-being, recognizing the key stages, practical strategies and exercises for self-reflection, and available resources with PHP. After that, Darla will be presenting on resources for retirement from Physician Business Services. And then we'll move on to the Q&A, so get your questions in at any time throughout the presentation. I'll now pass it on to Dr. Gibson for his part. On to you, Peter.
Great. Thank you, Walter. Welcome. And appreciate everyone joining in tonight. There's quite a large cohort, and which is exciting to see, I think. Just to talk a little bit about my background. So I'm a physician with the Physician Health Program. My disclosure is I have no financial sponsors. I don't have any grants or research or belong to any speakers bureau. There are two things which I do. I am contracted by the Physician Health Program as a program physician, and subsequently have had some supports through sessional for preparation and presentation of this. I'm also an owner and a coach for private life and leadership coaching practice, focusing primarily on healthcare leaders and healthcare professionals. A little bit about my background. I am a psychiatrist by training and have focused primarily in the community mental health sector, and have been doing that for, probably about 30 some odd years. Over the course of my journey, I've had leadership positions, and for the last 8 years, I've been doing coaching. And the coaching actually was part of my retirement journey. I saw myself doing more coaching as I age and cutting back on some of the clinical. I'm now doing locums with mental health teams as opposed to actually being a full-time staff. This is all in transition, and we'll go through some more examples of that for how that might look for someone. So for tonight, as part of my presentation, I'd like to make sure that we describe how the career transitions in retirement impact physician identity and emotional well-being. We'll look at the key stages of retirement. We'll explore the Ikigai framework to identify how to build new purpose and meaning. And then Darla will just look at essential financial considerations for a secure retirement. We'll also have some resources that you can tap into that may be helpful. Looking at the poll, it looks like most people are currently considering retirement, which is really, really good. And the time frame looks like most people within the next 5 years. The other thing is that people are thinking somewhat or thinking about what that journey will look like for them, which again is really, really positive. So moving on, just talk a little bit about the whole concept of transitions. And so this is really shifting from one phase of an individual's life to another, or changing aspects of one's career. And examples of this may be graduation from medical school to residency, from residency to practice, may include marriage, divorce. So I just have to move my little window here. Promotions, taking on a new real role, illness or retirement. They may be voluntary or involuntary. They may be positive or negative. And it's usually stressful whether one is positive or negative, and can impact one's sense of who they are and their sense of purpose. In the physician health program, we do come across people who are going through transitions, some of them due to issues around their ability to practice, and some of them because of health concerns. Everyone goes through these transitions. A word about retirement as a transition. This is a journey, not a destination. As any transition, there may be a voluntary aspect. I'm planning to transition into retirement. I've got a plan for that. I'm mapping it all out. Or it may be coerced. Something happens and you're not able to practice, and suddenly you're faced with what's next. Retirement may be looked forward to. People may be looking forward to having more time or space, and usually these are the individuals that have made plans. But some people are not looking forward to retirement because their whole sense of who and what they are is tied to medicine. It's important to acknowledge that retirement is an individual experience, and each is unique. And this is where it's very helpful to begin thinking about it early, and what it's going to mean for you and what it is that you're hoping it will be. Some statistics. One of the things that some people wonder about is a mandatory age of retirement. And there is no mandatory age of retirement in BC for physicians. The average retirement age for physicians is about 65. But one of the things to keep in mind is that the college may be more vigilant of one's practice over the age of 70. And it's just something to be aware of. The average, there's a wide variability on retirement. People may retire in their 50s or in their 70s and beyond. What's interesting is, although there's no statistical difference, some specialties are more prone to retire earlier, such as emergency room physicians, and some groups are retire later, such as surgeons. So I'd like to touch a little bit on the impact of retirement. And this could be also related to other transitions. It's very stressful and often involves multiple losses. So there can be a break in routine. Our brains love routine. what routine does is allow us to be energy efficient. Life is predictable, which has a calming effect on our brain. There's often a break in social networks, which leads to a loss of social connections within the workplace. Those are often important touch points in a person's life. And we know that when people have strong social networks, they're often less stressed and more resilient. There can be a loss of meaning and purpose. And this is what we do and why we do what we do. And physicians are particularly prone to this because we have a strong sense of identity around being a physician. There is the challenge to self-identity, often because of that loss of meaning and purpose. And there can be a change in relationships. Often there's stress in the marriage when one partner retires because all of a sudden they're hanging around at home more than they necessarily were. And finally, there can be a change in income. Finances is often stressful, and the idea of having enough finances for retirement, even if your financial advisors say that there's nothing to worry about, there is this nagging in the back of your mind that will I be able to afford the plans that I have. So there are 4 phases of retirement. There's the vacation phase. There's feeling of loss and feeling lost. There's a phase of trial and error, and then a reinvention and rewiring. And these phases are spelled out in a book by Dr. Riley Moynes, who is a historian and financial person, and he's written a number of books. He's Canadian from Toronto. And the book that he talked about based on his own personal experiences and speaking to colleagues and friends, ended up in this model of 4 phases. So within the vacation phase, there is no set routine. It's like being on holidays. Often it's the ideal view of retirement. You think about, oh yeah, I'm going to be traveling, I'll go down to the beach and hang out and or read books, and there's just this ideal vision. This phase can last up to a year. However, it soon becomes boring. The lack of structure and routine can lead to that dissatisfaction. This will transition into the phase of loss and feeling lost. And this is beginning to realize what has been lost. And Dr. Riley points out the big 5. First one being routine. As I mentioned, our brains love routine. It provides predictability and actually allows us to feel much less stressed. The sense of identity is gone. There's a loss of relationship. Like we said, the social connections are gone. And that's loss of purpose and a sense of power. And this is emotionally traumatic for people to experience, and can be particularly traumatic, again, for physicians who typically have a very strong sense of identity and purpose. As a result, this can also lead to divorce, depression, and decline. Typical emotions during this phase include things like fear, anxiety, and depression. And this may be a place where connecting with the physician health program to seek counseling and some guidance with regards to moving through some of this state. As one comes out of that state of darkness and feeling lost, we enter into the state of trial and error. And this is almost like being a kid again. We begin to regain a sense of meaningfulness, and we begin experimenting with different activities, different things that align to some of the values that you may have, and just trying on different things. A lot of people end up remaining in this stage, which is quite fine because it is a much more positive age or stage. Finally, the final stage is one of reinvention and rewiring. And as I mentioned, not everyone reaches this phase, but one begins to question and redevelop and reset a sense of mission and purpose. And there's often a service to others. And this is something that physicians would really attach to because our lives have been towards servicing others. And with this, there's a recovery of those 5 losses that we highlighted before. So there's reinvention and a reconnection to whole life. So we did mention that retirement is stress and transitions in general are stressful. And so there are some things that one can do to manage. Probably one of the first things to do is to think about pre-planning. And it's really healthy to see that a lot of people are interested in thinking about what their retirement journey will look like. One begins to think about retirement, and it may be reviewing your financial goals with a financial advisor. It may be exploring and beginning to do exercise activities outside of medicine, things that you might want to do when you do retire. So, for example, it may involve taking up a new hobby. It may involve doing some volunteer work. And which is not a bad thing to do when you're in your practice if you can. In part, it helps relieve the stress of practice as well. I tell people that medicine is not a very brain-friendly culture. We often give up the things outside of medicine that help us cope and manage with stress because of the demands of the medical world. And then the idea is to possibly build a graduated transition plan. And this is the idea of shifting from a full-time practice to a part-time practice, maybe to locums, which helps ease one into retirement, allows the space to maybe explore other activities, and maintain some form of income while that shift is occurring. For some people, that may shift over the course of a year. Other people, it may be over the course of 3 or 4 years. And this is where some individual abilities come into play. Did we have any questions or anything at this point with regards to anything that's been presented?
Not at this moment.
Okay. So how do we manage the stress? Well, a lot of it is actually things that we should be doing whether we're planning retirement or not. And that's really around maximizing our cognitive resilience. These are things like building and maintaining new routines, regular physical exercise, getting adequate sleep, making new social connections or strengthening the social connections we have, eating healthy, having mental stimulation, stress management, and it can include mindful activities. One of the things that is very helpful for the brain is mindfulness. And there's a variety of different mindful activities that people can be involved in. And it may be related to something formal like meditation. It may be related to an activity such as yoga, or even just going for a walk and being mindful in the present moment. And those things are very helpful for managing stress. And then strengthening one's sense of purpose and meaning. Boy, we're going fast. So the concept of Ikigai, I mentioned around this, and this is a concept that comes from the Japanese culture. And there's not a real good direct English translation. But in essence, it's to live the realization of what you hope for. It's the reason of being or that which makes life worth living. And in this model, there's 4 domains. The first domain is what you love. And this is the area where you're looking at some of the activities that inspire you. Some of the questions that help identify this for you, it would be, what do you never get bored of? What makes you smile? What were you doing when you last lost track of time? What did you love to do when you were a child? And what aspects of your life make you feel alive and energized? And this is where the a core of passion can come from. The next domain is all about what you are good at. So these are the things that you've developed skills and you have a talent towards. And some of the questions to help identify this is, what skills do you spend time practicing? What do people approach you to help you with? If you had to teach something, what would it be? What do people compliment you about? And what achievements are you proud of? And so these are the things of what you're good at. And this is an important connection to that whole sense of purpose. The next domain is what you can be paid for. And so this is to help with sustainability. It's very hard to do what you love and to do what you're good at if you're under financial stress. And so part of this is identifying some of the activities you could be paid for. In retirement, it's not so much more about financial compensation, but it may be more societal recognition, or there may be some non-monetary benefits that might fall into this category. And then the final domain is what the world needs. And this is really thinking about what do people in your immediate society need? What are the gaps that you could fill in? Is there something about the way the world works that you want to change? What can you do and offer that would bring meaning to others? How do you help others? And how can you contribute positively to those around you? And this is that service component. Now, the intersection are some interesting points. So when you intersect what you love and what you're good at, that is defined as your passion. And this is what brings you a sense of happiness and fulfillment in life. These are activities that bring you genuine joy and contentment because you're doing things that you love and you're good at. And there's a real positive component to that when you're doing that. When you, the overlap between what you love and what the world needs is your mission. These are the values and the goals or ideals that you believe in. It represents your purpose in life and the impact that you want to make in the world. And so this is often the value-driven component that adds to what the world needs. The third overlap is between what you're good at and what you can be paid for. And this is your profession. Your skills and expertise are what the world is willing to pay for. And it represents a job that utilizes talents and provides financial stability, which allows you to do the other activities. Finally, your vocation. So this is the overlap between what you can be paid for and what the world needs. And this is a meaningful contribution on purpose-driven work, aligning skills and societal needs. It tends to bridge financial viability and societal value. So the profession and our vocation in medicine is often overlapping. So when you look at all four domains, this becomes your ikigai, where it overlaps. And so discovering your ikigai can lead toward that fulfilling and meaningful life, allowing you to balance passion, your mission, your vocation, and your profession. And I would sense that most people currently have their ikigai in medicine. And however, with retirement, this may shift as values and what the world needs and those moments can change. Now, this model, this is an example of someone who may have completed the model to think about, well, what's their ikigai? And they listed what they love to do and include things like volunteering and travel and painting, teaching. When they looked at what they were good at, they identified painting and photography and writing and listening. When they looked what they could be paid for, they identified, well, they could, be paid for photography or for writing or potentially teaching. And they identified what they felt the world needed was a sense of community, its knowledge and compassion, free healthcare, and fair and equal education. So these are the values for this individual that were important. They identified their passions as being painting, photography, writing, and teaching. They looked at a profession of photography, writing, and teaching. Their mission overlap was teaching and community work, and the vocation was writing and teaching. And when they looked at the commonalities in these overlapping areas, teaching came forward as being the thing that they became their sense of purpose and meaning. It's not saying anything about what they actually were teaching, but it allowed them to do something that they loved to do, what they were good at, what they could get some compensation for, and was something they felt the world needed. And so that is an example of how this can unfold for an individual. So some of the resources that are available to help with this transition and into retirement. Probably one of the best resources is actually within the Divisions of Family Practice BC. They have a webpage that has a lot of resources for checklists or workbooks. And they have, I think, a 56-page document that goes through the various resources. If you go to their main website and just search for retirement, it comes with a whole variety of resources. A lot of them end up being on the North Shore Division page. If one is interested in delving into planning for retirement and working through, there is a group of physician coaches in the Canadian Physician Coaches Network. These are coaches that are physicians themselves, so understand the medical world and can provide a venue for people to begin to plan for work on their retirement. It may also be helpful for someone who's struggling with retirement and help them sort of regain or explore a new sense of purpose and meaning. And then, of course, the Physician Health Program through the Doctors of BC is available to help facilitate counseling and help connect people to resources that they may find helpful. If you are interested in connecting with the Physician Health Program, we're available 24/7, and there's a 1-800 helpline that will connect you to an intake worker. We have an office number that is available Monday to Friday. You will meet you'll meet or connect with our administrative team. They're not necessarily intake people skilled with mental health. And they can connect you to our clinical care coordinators who can take and help information. We have an email line that you can email to. And I think we are also just implementing an online form that will also connect you with having one of our case coordinators contact you back. Most people, when they're connected to our program, are assigned as well to one of the program physicians that can provide a valuable resource from both from a peer perspective, but also identifying resources that will be helpful. And actually, that reaches the end of my presentation. A little bit sooner than I thought.
Thank you, Peter. I think it's on to me now, hey? Okay. I will share my screen here. All right. So thank you so much for your presentation, and hello everyone, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. I'm Darla McIver, Business Advisor for Vancouver Island, and I've been in this role for 2 years, and I'm excited to share what our team can do to support you in your career. Sorry here. Okay. So this evening, I will discuss physician business services and our role in supporting physician members with their businesses. I will take you through a few topics tonight with highlights from starting in practice, managing your office, and finally closing your practice. Our resources are always growing, so any feedback and suggestions are welcome. So we have 4 regional business advisors. Like I said, I support the island. Ashley Buswell supports the North and Interior. Erin Kayla supports Fraser, and Jeet Baines supports Vancouver Coastal. As business advisors, we are a forward-facing role that interact with you one-on-one, and we guide you through business issues you may be having. We can direct you to coordinate with other departments of Doctors of BC, and that may be able to assist or refer you to the appropriate licensed professionals. We are here when you start a practice, assist when you need tools to manage one, all the way to when it is time to close a practice. Our goal is to take away the burden of looking for the information from you to allow more time to focus on patient care. So the supports we have start with starting in practice. We provide resources on what to do when transitioning from resident to physician and how to find practice opportunities. There are links to obtaining your BC license and enrolling in MSP along with several other valuable tools. We released a business planning toolkit last year that has topics and templates aimed to support you in planning or redesigning your business model. This includes a business plan template to plan out specifics for your business's operational and financial requirements. There is information on registering with the CRA, a checklist to work through in opening a practice, and many other helpful toolkits. We have negotiated discount rates through ClubMD, which allows you reduced rates for lawyers and accountants and more. Our HR toolkit is valuable in assisting a clinic on the hiring, onboarding, managing staff through performance and annual reviews, and termination of employment or leaves of absences. The contingency planning toolkit is helpful for when you need to prepare for the unexpected. I will talk more on this shortly. There are also agreement templates and guides on what to consider in regard to cost sharing and group governance. These contract templates were written by a lawyer who is also on our ClubMD for ClubMD for member services. Our team created an overhead calculator that has been well received. This gives a visual of the monthly expenses for a clinic and makes it easier to figure out how to decide on the overhead. Our Business Corner section has articles on best business practices and address issues physicians are facing, as well as our recorded webinars. This information is an overview of what business advisors offer support with, but tonight we'll be focusing on the support for retirement. All right, so whether you're months or years away from retirement, there are lots of steps, as Dr. Gibson talked about, when getting ready. So it is really important when it comes time to notify active patients and patients requiring ongoing care. Physician support program coaches can help with a patient panel assessment to facilitate this. Our website has written templates for departure announcements, which include a new physician coming in, no physician coming in, and searching for a replacement. There is a link to the college practice standards for closing a practice as well. And the college must be notified as soon as possible via the resignation and retirement form on their website, which we also provide a link to on our closing your practice section. There is a checklist for office closure that lists who to notify, including colleagues, CMPA, MSP, Life Labs, and more. This is an easy visual to have when it feels like there's so much to think about. Organizing medical records can be overwhelming, and our doctor's technology office can support with these conversations. Through ClubMD, we have endorsed med records, and they can ease the burden of storing your charts electronically or paper. There are many factors to consider when storing records, and we can help guide you and put you in contact with the right supports with this. Succession planning. Succession planning allows for the business to have supports and structure in cases when there are unexpected changes. It allows for a business to run smoothly in case staff leave or other situations occur. This can also be a starting point when it is time to think about retirement. A succession plan will help the business for the future and stay running successfully. The plan can look different depending on where you are in your career, so some points to consider are staffing, positions, and needs, interested physicians to mentor, development of staff and positions, goals, and knowledge transfer plans, which these should always be regularly reviewed. So our contingency planning toolkit was one of the first resources released from Physician Business Services. It was built because of the impact of natural disasters such as wildfires and floods in BC, and was originally meant to be an emergency preparedness toolkit. However, it was quickly realized the importance of being prepared for more than a wildfire or flood. So we needed to help support clinics, families, and physicians who could no longer provide patient care. WorkSafe does require all businesses in BC to have an emergency plan, and this can be a tall order for a clinic when you want to focus on patient care, so that is why the toolkit is helpful. The template package allows easy listing of insurance coverages, documenting procedure, and assigning key roles and responsibilities, creating contact lists and a communication plan. There are several other sections, but I think you get the idea. This allows you to keep all the important information in one spot to access in an emergency or sudden closure, or just as a reference guide. So as an organization, we have several teams who come together and can support you in the retirement process. The practice support program coaches in pre-retirement planning can support clinics to clean up their panel to make the practice appealing. They support with the notification process to alert patients to upcoming changes, either helping to support pulling active reports, advising on updating status, and transferring patient charts internally within the EMR. Coaches can assist with most workflow and processes in preparation for retirement. Our insurance team, hopefully you're aware of them. As members, you qualify for different levels of insurance, from life, critical illness, to health and dental. And for the most accurate and up-to-date information and advice, you can contact our insurance advisors directly. Our negotiations team can support to ensure terms of contracts are compliant with the PMA, for example, contracts through the health authority. They cannot assist in physician-to-physician contracts, so this would fall under the expertise of a lawyer to negotiate. As Doctors of BC members, we have professionally inactive or retired memberships available. These membership dues are based on income earned, not the number of hours worked, and our benefits team is able to advise on this in more detail. As I mentioned earlier, there are many discounts and services offered for members through ClubMD. These include negotiated rates with lawyers and accountants, entertainment, restaurants, electronics, travel, and more. This does require a login, as it's not forward-facing as some of the other resources we have. So the question tonight from a lot of the registrants were regarding financial planning. So we frequently direct members to MD Financial for the investment planning, and the accountants at MNP LLP for help with incorporation and other financial advice and support. And each situation is different, so they'd be able to tailor the plan to you. Many family physicians are enrolled in the LFP payment model, and they should contact contact our FPSC billing support team when planning a change in practice to ensure the necessary steps to withdraw are completed as outlined in the LFP payment schedule. Their team should be contacted when moving to another payment model, transitioning to a different type of practice, leaving practice in BC, or any circumstances where there's no longer an intention to bill for services under the LFP model, which includes retirement. So if you'd like to meet with any of these teams, please reach out and I am happy to put you in contact with them. So another resource you may or may not know about is the registered support coaches through the college. So they're available by a 30-minute appointment to support registrants who require guidance in applying standards and guidelines. So the QR code on the screen there is how you can contact them and book that appointment. So now I think you've heard enough from me. So I want to say thank you to you all for listening to my presentation tonight, and I hope you take away some valuable information. This was a brief overview, so please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions you may have to either myself or the advisor for your region, and we'd be happy to discuss them with you. And you can use this QR code to access our advice and support section of our website. So back to you, Walter.
Thanks, Darla. I've just pasted, the closing practice checklist, the link on the chat, as well as a webinar link to a past webinar regarding estates and wills for retirement. So you can look into that. We're at the time, it's quite early, so get your questions in. So there are a few questions. A few of them are about college license necessary for teaching after retirement. I know that Darla's answered that by typing, but do you want to speak a little bit about that, Darla? For folks that don't want to look at the typing answer.
Yeah, so basically, if you want to do anything that's not direct patient care, you just contact the college and change the level of your licensing to teaching or researching. So it's just a matter of giving them a call and letting them know what your plan is and then getting licensed for that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I think it is helpful to think about what you're going to be doing. And if you're wanting to do locums, it actually would be advisable to maintain a full license. So that you can have that flexibility, even if you end up doing teaching and you decide that, yes, I would like to do some clinical work, it would be advisable to maintain a full license.
Thank you, Peter. That's good advice. And next questions for you, Peter. There are a few questions about regrets for retiring. Do you have any personal insight, or do you see any trends at PHP?
That's a really good question. I think the regrets most people would have are around making a full op stop in medicine. We certainly, the people that have struggled with retirement, they've left medicine entirely. Sometimes not by their choice. And subsequently they then feel really, really lost. So the ones that seem to have less regrets do map out a plan and do a tapering and transition where they can keep some active participation in medical practice, but have a lot more freedom to also have other activities going on. I would say that would be probably the best way to offset regrets.
Yes. So plan early, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question is regarding medical storage support. It's available through Doctors of BC family physicians, but not specialists. Has this changed to be a more inclusive plan, Darla?
I'm not, as far as I know, specialists can use med records for medical storage. I think it's just the fees are different for how they're stored, but absolutely specialists are included in that storage. Dr. Gibson, do you have anything?
No, I have no experience with that.
Okay. Yeah, I know that specialists can use them for their storage, but it's just a different fee system.
Yeah, it would make sense that they would have the ability to use that storage.
Mm-hmm.
Next question regarding EMRs. I closed my community family practice 2 weeks ago and am currently doing locum. My EMR support person is still hosting my EMR on the cloud. What is my responsibility when after 16 years have elapsed regarding the destruction of all the EMRs?
Hmm. Well,
That
that's a
might
good
be a
question.
question to take offline.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and whether the college can comment on some of that. There's probably going to be much more of this in the forefront as EMRs take, are much more in the cloud, so to speak.
Hmm. Feel free to reach out, even to our doctor's technology office team, because they have a lot of access to that kind of information. So,
Mhm.
Another question for Dr. Gibson. As you're in this phase to some extent yourself, what do you wish you knew before starting this whole process for yourself?
Yeah, probably my regret was not thinking about the financial side of things earlier. I'm going to be okay. I'm not worried about that. But I could have been in a lot better position had I started thinking about, say, even 15 years ago, which would have created a really good, solid foundation to feel like I can close down or the time frame for closing down and transitioning. So I think that would probably be one of the most important things. And I think it becomes doubly important because sometimes what happens, life will throw in an event that impacts your financial situation, such as a divorce. That can be a real stressor for people thinking about their retirement planning.
Thank you for your insight, Peter. So what happens to CMPA coverage after retirement? Complaints and lawsuits can also occur years after retirement. You have any comments on that, Darla?
I I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look into it. So again, if you wanted to get a hold of me, we could look into it, but I don't know too much about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all right. Go
that's
ahead.
a really good question.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure, as long as you have a license to practice, you would be covered. So even if your office was closed down, and you have a license to practice, you should be covered. But that would be a question to ask the CMPA directly. But that's certainly something, good information for us to hunt out.
Thank you, both of you. If you have asked for Darla's email, I'm just going to paste that onto the chat. So if you want to have a one-on-one with Darla, go ahead and email her.
Thank you.
1 second, let me look at the question. These are quite case by case personal questions.
Oh, we've got a response to the CMPA. And the response is that it's incident based, which means if you were covered at the time of the incident, then they will assist.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, there are a minimum number of hours per year you have to work to maintain your license. Is this the same for all specialties?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I know that there are these requirements for maintaining a full license. Um, and that would be a good question for the college around when you retire and you're doing a part-time practice. Does that change? Um, yeah, we'll have to maybe check that one out.
Hmm.
Just jot that down.
Are you jotting that down? And then the question for you, Peter, can patients get refills if prescribed it after the doctor has retired?
Um, yeah, so if you've got an active license, that should be fine. That being said, if you're no longer in practice, and have clinical responsibility for that patient, it wouldn't be probably a good idea to, they should probably transition to somebody who's going to be monitoring the medication. I would think that would be a potential risk point. If you were continuing to, if someone was continuing to get medications that you were prescribed, but they don't have follow-up.
Thank you, Peter. And are there locums that can be done virtually? I would think yes, depending on your practice, right, Darla?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be able to be done virtually. There's standards around virtual care, but as long as the patient had access to inpatient, in-office care, then a virtual appointment would absolutely, virtual locuming would be sufficient.
There was in the chat, there was a comment about if you retire your license, then, and that's different from being retired, then all active lab requisitions and prescriptions are null and void. And so the key is you need an active license to practice. And an active license will keep those like prescription refills going. Like I said, as potential stress point or point of risk.
Perfect. Next question. How can you suggest a physician cut down a practice panel during this transition period?
Yeah, I think that that's a would be, I would consider sort of an individual, what sort of horizon are you looking at? How would one do that? And if you're going from a full-time to 0.8, the tapering down is going to be different than if you're going from a full-time to a 0.5. And so the college does have guidelines around how you pare back your panel, and processes of how do you determine who you're going to let go, how do you help them find a replacement, and those sorts of things. The college website actually has a really good resource. I should have put that up there, for sort of reducing one's clinical responsibility.
Yeah, I see a few comments that the current environment at the workplace is hard to change from a full-time to a part-time. You know, there's not enough physicians in their office to take over.
Yeah, that's very true. And but you know, I'm probably not going to be very popular for saying this, but physicians are very good at enabling the system to continue the way it goes. And so one needs to balance the stressors of work and the need to be there to help people versus looking after yourself as well. And again, where that kind of conversation could be had with a coach, or within the physician health program, where you can actually have a dialogue around how do you do that? What is the best way that works for you as an individual?
Yeah, that's a good point. Self-care is very important. Fun question. Do you know of any physicians who went on to a second career after their retirement? Like what type of career did they do?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Um, yeah, well, I do know I do know of a physician who ended up retiring and pursuing an interest in painting, and ended up going to Emily Carr and getting a degree and pursuing an art degree. So there's following some of those hobbies or interests and passions, and that you may be able to monetize it, you might not. There may be other values to it.
Thank you, Peter. Next question. I've heard from retired physicians who are not in a couple or nor have children or grandchildren, and how lonely they have become past retirement. And with the loss of work and the community, they have said they do recreational things, but they feel like the activities are empty. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a really good example of how, you know, as physicians, we're so enmeshed into the work settings that we work in for that social connection and sense of meaning that can become a very lonely part when one's done. That's that loss and feeling lost. Connecting with the physician health program may be helpful to get some counseling to move one forward. And strategizing ways of building up a social network, which can help offset some of um, that sense of loss and loneliness.
Darla, do we
Mhm.
still have Doctors of BC access to all benefits even after retired?
Absolutely. So it's just you'd still have to be a member of Doctors of BC, but it's based on, I think I said it was based on income earned, not hours worked, and it's a different level. It's I can't remember what the wording was, inactive or it's a retired level of membership. And our benefits team can give you a list of what the fees would be and stuff.
Do you know of any physicians that have started a side business as a medical content creator?
Yeah, no, it's well, I know that there are a couple of physicians that have done things like write books and I'm thinking of Dr. Shimi Kang, who's a child psychiatrist and she's I think got a podcast and so I think that yeah, I think there are people that do that. I don't know how you would do it, but I'm not I'm not so much into the social media side of things, but
Thanks for the input. Is there a minimum number of hours of work required to maintain license? Or what is considered full-time?
yeah, there are varying amounts. I think for psychiatry, it's 360 hours. The family practitioner, there's a required, but it can vary over the course of time. Someone was commenting in the Q&A that um, uh, it's a rolling um, figure over 3 years. So you've got 3 years to kind of meet that number. Um, Probably the best person to call would be the college and just get some clarity around that.
And what is the best time to inform the college if you're thinking of like phasing out or transitioning to retirement?
Well, I guess the question, so it depends on, so if you're closing down your practice, then you'll want to inform them within that year because you'll also want to be going through and making sure you're clear of the steps that you need to wind down your practice. You don't necessarily need to let them know that you're, with regards to relinquishing your license. Um, if you do that, then of course you won't be able to practice at all. It can be quite a chore to kind of reintegrate or reactivate it. Um, if anyone else knows sort of what the requirements are, like I don't think there's a set timeline other than the sooner the better.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
That allows you to practice and plan.
Sorry, there's quite a few questions that are the same, so I'm just trying to go through them. I think a few physicians are worried that no one's going to take over their practice, and then they have already told their patient they need like a colonoscopy in 2033 and a PEP in like 2029, and like what happens with that? Like if they're closing down and there's no one taking over, I guess the best thing to do is help them find a new physician.
Yeah, there's certainly things that you can try and do. It depends on the severity of the condition. And you want to sort of the more complicated cases and the ones that may be more ill, you want to try really hard to try and get them coverage. And it might be connecting with colleagues in the area to see if they can take one or two. Um, and then the ones that are less serious or, or just routine, you may be able to help them find a resource. I think some of the divisions of family practices kind of have registries that people can get on. There can be a bit of a wait, but people do move up that list. So
Yeah, there is a Health Connect registry that patients can get on and they can address the level of care that they need, and then
and
I think
triage it.
they can triage it. Yeah.
I mean, there's a comment about if you're doing like an early semi-retirement and then a retirement for 1 year and then a vacation another year and then coming back to practice again. Is there any concerns with this?
I can't imagine that there would be concerns about that if you're doing, a locum. If it was your own ongoing practice, that might be more difficult. But if you're going off, you do locums for a year or a position for a year, and then as a temporary, that shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect. I think we have addressed most of the questions, and I see that we are at time. By 6:31. So thank you, Peter and Darla, for sharing tonight, and all attendees for taking their time to log on. The recording will be up sometime next week on Business Corner for you to review at any time or share with your colleagues. A post survey will pop up as you exit, and we appreciate it if you can complete it. It will also be sent to your registered email if you cannot complete it right now. If you have any questions, please send them to us through Business Services and PHP. The February 10th webinar with Switch BC is accredited. It's available for registration on Doctors of BC calendar upcoming events. I'll see you at our next PBS webinar. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight.
Great. Thank you for
Good night,
inviting me.
everybody.